The World Cup is more than a football tournament. It is a story of dreams, legends, pain, and glory. Since 1930, the World Cup has given the world unforgettable moments. Uruguay's first title, Brazil's beautiful football, Maradona's magic, Germany's power, France's new generation, and Messi's final dream with Argentina. Every 4 years, countries stop. Fans cry, celebrate, and believe again. In this story, you will learn the history of the FIFA World Cup in simple English, from the first tournament in Uruguay to the modern era of global football. So subscribe to the channel, get ready to learn, and let's go! This is not just the history of a sport. This is the history of the world, told with a ball. The history of the FIFA World Cup Part 1. The story of the World Cup begins with a simple idea. The world loved football, but the world needed one great tournament to find the best national team on earth. Long before the World Cup existed, people were already playing football in many countries. The game was simple. You needed a ball, a field, 2 goals, and players who wanted to run, pass, fight, and dream. This is one reason football became the most popular sport in the world. Rich people could play it, poor people could play it. Children could play it in the streets. Adults could play it in big stadiums. Football belonged to everyone. At the beginning of the 20th century, international football started to grow. Countries wanted to play against each other. Fans wanted to know which nation had the best team. Football was already part of the Olympic Games, and Olympic football became very important. But there was a problem. The Olympic Games were not only about football, they were about many sports. Football needed its own stage. This is where FIFA became important. FIFA was created in 1904. The name FIFA comes from French, but in English we can understand it as the International Organization of Football. FIFA wanted to organize the game between countries and help football grow around the world. One of the most important people in this story was Jules Rimet. He was a French football leader. He believed football could bring countries together. He believed that a world tournament could be more than just sport. It could be a meeting of cultures, languages, flags, and dreams. At that time, this was a very big idea. Travel was difficult. There were no fast planes like today. Communication was slow. Many countries were far away from each other. But the dream was strong. One tournament, many nations, one champion. In 1928, FIFA made the decision to create a football World Cup. The first tournament would happen in 1930. Now, FIFA needed to choose the first host country. The country chosen was Uruguay. Uruguay was small, but very strong in football. The national team had won Olympic gold medals in 1924 and 1928. Also, in 1930, Uruguay was celebrating 100 years of its first constitution. Hosting the first World Cup was a perfect way to celebrate. So, in 1930, the first FIFA World Cup began in Uruguay. Only 13 teams played in the first tournament. Today, this number feels small. But at that time, bringing teams from different parts of the world was very hard. Many European teams did not want to travel across the ocean. The trip was long, expensive, and tiring. Some players would need to leave work for many weeks, but the teams that came made history. The first World Cup had teams from South America, North America, and Europe. The games were played in Montevideo, the capital of Uruguay. The biggest stadium was the Estadio Centenario. It was built for the tournament and became one of the most famous stadiums in football history. The first World Cup final was Uruguay against Argentina. This final was not just a football match. It was a battle between neighbors. Uruguay and Argentina are close countries. They share history, culture, and a deep love for football. Both teams wanted to be the first world champion. The final happened on July 30th, 1930. Argentina started strong. Uruguay also had great players. The match was intense, emotional, and full of pressure. In the end, Uruguay won 4-2. Uruguay became the first World Cup champion. Imagine that moment. A small country, full of passion, standing at the top of the football world. The players became heroes. The fans celebrated in the streets, and the World Cup was born. Before we continue this journey, here is something important for you. If you are learning English with this story, subscribe to the channel and comment World Cup. In the first pinned comment, there is an exclusive material to help you learn English 5 times faster. Just click the link and access it. It will help you understand stories like this with more confidence and more speed. After 1930, the World Cup continued to grow. The second World Cup happened in 1934. This time, the host country was Italy. The tournament was very different from the first one. More teams wanted to participate, and there was a qualification system. This means that countries had to play before the tournament to win a place in the World Cup. Italy was strong. The Italian team had good players, good organization, and the support of the home fans. The 1934 World Cup was also marked by politics. At that time, Italy was under the control of Benito Mussolini, a dictator. He understood that football could be used to show power. Because of this, the tournament had a strong political atmosphere. But on the field, Italy played well. Italy reached the final against Czechoslovakia. The match was hard. Czechoslovakia scored first, but Italy came back. The game went to extra time, and Italy won 2-1. Italy became the second World Cup champion. 4 years later, in 1938, the World Cup happened in France. By now, the tournament was more famous. Football fans around the world were paying more attention. The World Cup was becoming a symbol of national pride. When a country played in the World Cup, it was not only a team on the field, it was a flag, a people, and a dream. In 1938, Italy was still very strong. The Italian team reached another final. This time, they played against Hungary. Hungary had an excellent team, but Italy had experience. Italy won the final 4-2 and became world champion again. This was a huge moment in football history. Italy became the first country to win 2 World Cups. Italy was also the first country to win 2 World Cups in a row. But after 1938, the world changed. The Second World War began in 1939. Countries were not thinking about football anymore. They were thinking about survival. Cities were destroyed. Families were separated. Millions of people suffered. The World Cup had to stop. There was no World Cup in 1942. There was no World Cup in 1946. For 12 years, the biggest football tournament in the world disappeared. This pause shows us something important. Football is powerful, but football is also part of history. When the world is at peace, football can bring people together. But when the world is at war, even the biggest dreams must wait. Still, the World Cup did not die. The idea survived. The dream survived. People still loved football. Children still played in the streets. Fans still remembered the great players. Countries still wanted to compete. And after the war, the world needed moments of joy again. The World Cup would return. And when it returned, it would bring one of the most painful and unforgettable stories in football history. Brazil, 1950. And the day a whole country went silent. But that is where the next part of our story begins. The history of the FIFA World Cup Part 2. The World Cup returned in 1950, after 12 long years without the tournament. The host country was Brazil. For Brazil, this was more than football. It was a chance to show the world a new country full of energy, music, color, and love for the game. Brazil wanted to prove that it was ready to be one of the great football nations. The main symbol of that World Cup was the Maracana Stadium in Rio de Janeiro. The Maracana was enormous. It was built to receive a huge number of fans. For many people, it felt like a football temple. When the stadium was full, the sound was powerful. It was not just noise, it was emotion. It was hope. It was a whole country breathing together. Brazil played very well during the tournament. The team scored many goals. The fans were confident. Newspapers, radios, and people in the streets believed that Brazil would finally become world champion. The country was ready to celebrate. But the 1950 World Cup had a different format. There was no traditional final. Instead, there was a final group. Brazil only needed a draw in the last game against Uruguay to become champion. The match happened on July 16, 1950. Brazil against Uruguay. Almost everyone believed Brazil would win. Brazil scored first. The Maracana exploded with joy. The dream seemed very close. But Uruguay did not give up. Uruguay tied the game. Then, near the end, Uruguay scored again. The stadium became silent. Brazil lost 2-1. Uruguay became world champion for the second time. This game became known as the Maracanazo. It was one of the most painful moments in Brazilian football history. The word means something like the big shock at the Maracana. For Brazil, it was not just a defeat. It felt like a national tragedy. But football is like life. Sometimes a painful defeat becomes the beginning of a greater story. Brazil would suffer in 1950, but this pain would help create a stronger football identity. The country would come back. And when Brazil came back, the world would meet some of the greatest players in history. 4 years later, in 1954, the World Cup happened in Switzerland. This tournament gave us another unforgettable story, the miracle of Bern. The strongest team in the world at that time was Hungary. Hungary had a brilliant team, with amazing players and a very modern style of football. They were fast, creative, and powerful. Many people believed they were almost impossible to beat. Hungary had a legendary player named Ferenc Puskás. He was one of the best players of his generation. With him, Hungary looked unstoppable. In the group stage, Hungary destroyed West Germany 8-3. Because of this, when Hungary and West Germany met again in the final, most people expected Hungary to win easily. But finals are different. A final has pressure. A final has fear. A final has emotion. And sometimes, the team that looks weaker finds strength at the right moment. Hungary started well and scored 2 goals quickly. It looked like the final would be easy. But West Germany reacted. They scored 1 goal, then another. The game was tied. Near the end of the match, West Germany scored again. West Germany won 3-2. It was a shock. This victory became known as the Miracle of Bern. For West Germany, it was more than a football title. After the Second World War, the country was still trying to rebuild its identity and confidence. The 1954 World Cup gave many people a feeling of hope again. That is why the World Cup is so powerful. It is not only about goals. It is about people, history, pain, recovery, and belief. Now, if you are following this story and learning English with it, take one simple action. Subscribe to Learn English Daily and comment below. I love football stories. Also, check the first pinned comment. There is an exclusive material there to help you learn English 5 times faster. Just click the link and access it. It is a simple way to keep learning with stories like this. In 1958, the World Cup went to Sweden. And this is when the world met a boy named Pele. Pele was only 17 years old. Think about that for a moment. He was a teenager, playing on the biggest football stage in the world. Many players feel pressure when they are adults. Pele was still very young, but he played with joy, courage, and magic. Brazil had a strong team. The country still carried the pain of 1950, but now there was a new generation. Brazil had skill, speed, creativity, and confidence. At first, Pele did not play every match, but when he entered the team, everything changed. In the quarterfinal, Brazil played against Wales. The match was difficult. Wales defended well, and Brazil needed a special moment. Pele scored the only goal of the game. Brazil won 1-0. In the semi-final, Brazil played against France. Pele scored 3 goals, a hat-trick. At only 17 years old, he showed the world that a new star had arrived. Then came the final, Brazil against Sweden. Sweden was the host country. The Swedish fans were excited. They hoped their team could win at home. But Brazil was too strong. Brazil won. Wool and Dandelli scored 2 goals in the final. One of them became very famous because of the beauty of the play. He controlled the ball, lifted it over a defender, and finished with confidence. Brazil became world champion for the first time. After the final, Pelé cried. Those tears became one of the most iconic images in World Cup history. A young boy from Brazil had become a world champion. A country that had suffered in 1950 was now celebrating in 1958. Brazil had finally reached the top of the football world. But the story did not stop there. In 1962, the World Cup happened in Chile. Brazil arrived as the defending champion. The team still had Pelé, and people expected him to shine again. But football can be unpredictable. Pelé got injured early in the tournament. For many teams, losing the best player would be the end of the dream. But Brazil had another genius, Garrincha. Garrincha was different from other players. He was not a typical athlete. He had a unique way of moving. His dribbling was simple, joyful, and impossible to predict. Defenders knew what he wanted to do, but they still could not stop him. With Pelé injured, Garrincha became the leader of Brazil. He played with freedom. He created chances. He scored goals. He made the game feel like art. Brazil reached the final against Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia scored first, but Brazil stayed calm. The team reacted, scored 3 goals, and won 3-1. Brazil became world champion again. 2 titles in a row, 1958 and 1962. Brazil was now a football superpower. The world understood that Brazilian football had something special. It was not only about winning, it was about style. It was about creativity. It was about playing with imagination. Then came 1966. The World Cup was held in England. For England, football was part of national identity. Many people in England saw the country as the home of modern football. Hosting the World Cup was a moment of pride. Brazil arrived as the 2-time champion, but the tournament was difficult. Pelé was fouled many times and got injured again. Brazil was eliminated early. This showed another side of the World Cup. Great teams can fall. Great players can suffer. Nothing is guaranteed. England, on the other hand, grew during the tournament. The English team was organized, strong, and disciplined. Their captain was Bobby Moore, a calm and intelligent defender. Their biggest attacking star was Geoff Hurst. England reached the final against West Germany. The final was played at Wembley Stadium in London. It became one of the most famous finals ever. The game was dramatic. England and West Germany fought until the end. The score was 2-2 after normal time. The match went to extra time. Then came the most controversial moment of the final. Geoff Hurst shot the ball. It hit the crossbar and bounced down near the goal line. The big question was, did the ball cross the line? The referee gave the goal. England took the lead. Later, England scored again and won 4-2. England became world champion for the first time. For English fans, 1966 became a golden memory. It was the moment when football came home and England lifted the trophy at Wembley. But the next World Cup would belong to beauty. In 1970, the World Cup happened in Mexico. This tournament is remembered as one of the greatest World Cups of all time. It was the first World Cup shown live on television in color for many people around the world. This changed everything. Fans could see the green field, the colorful shirts, the flags, the stadiums, and the emotion in a new way. And Brazil arrived with one of the greatest teams in football history. Pelé was back, but he was not alone. Brazil had Jairzinho, Tosto, Gerson, Rivellino, Carlos Alberto, and many other great players. The team had talent in every position. They could pass, dribble, think, and attack with elegance. Brazil played football that looked natural. but was very difficult to stop. Every match had beautiful moments. Jairzinho scored in every game. Pelé created unforgettable plays. Gerson controlled the midfield. Rivellino had power and technique. Carlos Alberto was a leader from defense. Brazil reached the final against Italy. Italy was also strong. The Italian team had tradition, discipline, and great players. But in that final, Brazil played with a level of football that became legendary. Brazil won 4-1. The last goal is one of the most famous goals in World Cup history. Brazil moved the ball from one side to the other. Many players touched it. The play looked calm, intelligent, and perfect. Then Pelé passed the ball to Carlos Alberto, who arrived with speed and scored a powerful goal. It was not just a goal, it was a symbol of teamwork, a symbol of beauty, a symbol of Brazilian football at its highest level. Brazil became world champion for the third time. Because Brazil won 3 World Cups, they kept the Jules Rimet Trophy forever, according to the rule at that time. Pelé also became the first player to win 3 World Cups. This made him a global legend. By 1970, the World Cup had changed completely from the small tournament in Uruguay in 1930. It was now a worldwide event. Millions of people watched. Players became international stars. Countries used football to show identity, pride, and culture. From Uruguay in 1950 to Brazil in 1970, the World Cup gave us pain, miracles, young stars, national dreams, and unforgettable beauty. The Maracanazo showed that football can break hearts. The miracle of Bern showed that belief can change history. Pelé showed that greatness can begin very young. Garrincha showed that football can be art. England showed the power of playing at home. And Brazil in 1970 showed the world that football could be more than a sport. It could be poetry with a ball. But after 1970, the World Cup would enter a new era. A new trophy would appear, new champions would rise, new tactics would change the game, and one of the most controversial and brilliant players in history would soon take the stage. Diego Maradona. The History of the FIFA World Cup Part 3. After 1970, the World Cup entered a new era. Brazil had won the Jules Rimet Trophy forever because the country had won the tournament 3 times. So, FIFA needed a new trophy. This new trophy is the one we know today. 2 human figures holding the world. It became a symbol of football glory. Every player wanted to touch it. Every country wanted to lift it. And every fan wanted to see their nation become world champion. The first World Cup with the new trophy happened in 1974 in West Germany. Football was changing. Teams were more organized. Coaches were thinking more about systems, space, pressure, and movement. The game was still beautiful, but it was becoming more tactical. One of the most famous teams at that time was the Netherlands. The Dutch team played a style called total football. The idea was simple to understand, but very hard to play. Players moved all over the field. Defenders could attack. Attackers could help in defense. The team moved together like one body. The star of that team was Johan Cruyff. Cruyff was not only a great player, he was a football thinker. He saw space before other players. He moved with intelligence. He made simple passes look special. He changed the way many people understood football. The Netherlands played beautiful football in 1974. Many fans believed they were the best team in the tournament. But the final was against West Germany, the host country. The Netherlands started very well. They scored a penalty before any German player had touched the ball. It looked like the Dutch dream was beginning perfectly. But West Germany did not panic. They were strong, disciplined, and mentally ready. They came back into the game. Paul Breitner scored a penalty. Then Gerd Müller scored another goal. West Germany won 2-1. They became world champion for the second time. For the Netherlands, it was painful. They had played beautiful football. but they did not win the trophy. This became an important lesson in World Cup history. Sometimes, the most beautiful team does not become champion. In 1978, the World Cup went to Argentina. Argentina had a strong football culture. The country loved the game deeply. The stadiums were full. The fans were loud. The players felt the pressure and the power of playing at home. But the 1978 World Cup also had a difficult background. Argentina was living under a military dictatorship. This made the tournament more complex. For many people, the World Cup was a celebration of football. For others, it was also connected to politics and fear. On the field, Argentina was led by Mario Kempes. Kempes was strong, brave, and decisive. He scored important goals and became the face of the tournament. Argentina reached the final against the Netherlands. For the Dutch team, this was their second final in a row. They had lost in 1974, and now they had another chance. The final was played in Buenos Aires. The atmosphere was intense. Argentina had the support of the home crowd. The Netherlands fought hard. The game was difficult and emotional. Argentina won 3-1 after extra time. Mario Kempes scored 2 goals. Argentina became world champion for the first time. The fans celebrated in the streets. For Argentina, this was a historic football moment. The country had joined the list of World Cup champions. Before we move to the next great chapter, remember this: if you are learning English with this story, subscribe to Learn English Daily and comment, "Football teaches history," and check the first pinned comment. There is an exclusive material there to help you learn English 5 times faster. Just click the link and access it. It can help you learn new words, understand stories better, and keep improving every day. In 1982, the World Cup happened in Spain. This tournament is remembered by many fans as one of the most exciting World Cups ever. It had great teams, great matches, and great players. Brazil arrived with a team full of talent. The Brazilian team had Zico, Socrates, Falcao, Cerezo, and many others. They played with joy, passing, movement, and creativity. For many people, Brazil in 1982 was one of the most beautiful teams in football history. The captain, Socrates, was more than a football player. He was intelligent, calm, and elegant. He played with his head up. Zico was full of skill. Falcao controlled the midfield. The team made the ball move like music. But again, football showed that beauty is not always enough. Brazil played against Italy in one of the most famous matches in World Cup history. Italy had started the tournament slowly, but they were growing at the right time. Their striker, Paolo Rossi, became the hero. Brazil only needed a draw to go forward. But Brazil played to win, as always. Italy scored first. Brazil tied, Italy scored again, Brazil tied again. Then Paolo Rossi scored his 3rd goal. Italy won 3-2. Brazil was eliminated. For Brazilian fans, it was a painful defeat. But the 1982 team is still loved because of the way they played. They did not win the World Cup, but they won a special place in football memory. Italy continued the tournament with confidence. In the semi-final, Italy beat Poland. In the final, Italy played against West Germany. Italy won 3-1. Paolo Rossi finished as one of the great names of the tournament. Italy became world champion for the 3rd time. The Italian victory in 1982 showed another lesson. A team can start slowly and still finish as champion. In the World Cup, the most important thing is to grow at the right moment. Then came 1986. The World Cup was held in Mexico. This tournament became the stage for one of the most famous players in football history, Diego Armando Maradona. Maradona was from Argentina. He was small, strong, fast, and incredibly skilled. He could control the ball in tight spaces. He could dribble many players. He could change a match with one touch, one pass, or one run. In 1986, Maradona was at the center of everything. Argentina had a good team, but Maradona was the heart of it. He carried the dreams of a nation on his shoulders. The most famous match of that World Cup was Argentina against England in the quarterfinal. This game had deep emotion. A few years earlier, Argentina and the United Kingdom had fought in the Falklands War, so the match had more than football inside it. It had history, pain, pride, and tension. Then Maradona created two of the most famous moments in World Cup history. The first goal was controversial. Maradona jumped with the English goalkeeper, Peter Shilton. He used his hand to touch the ball into the goal. The referee did not see it. The goal was allowed. Later, Maradona called it the hand of God. For Argentina, it was a goal. For England, it was unfair. For the world, it became one of the most talked about moments in football history. But a few minutes later, Maradona scored a goal that needed no debate. He received the ball in his own half. Then he started running. He passed one English player, then another, then another. He kept going. He dribbled the goalkeeper and scored. It was a masterpiece. That goal became known as the goal of the century. In the same match, Maradona showed two sides of football, controversy and genius. Argentina beat England 2-1. Argentina then beat Belgium in the semi-final. In the final, Argentina played against West Germany. Argentina started well and took a 2-0 lead. But West Germany came back and tied the game 2-2. The pressure was huge. Then Maradona made one perfect pass to Jorge Burruchaga. Burruchaga ran, stayed calm, and scored. Argentina won 3-2. Argentina became world champion for the second time. Maradona lifted the trophy. For many people, the 1986 World Cup is remembered as Maradona's World Cup. Few players in history have had such a big impact on one tournament. In 1990, the World Cup went to Italy. This tournament had a different feeling. It was more defensive. Teams were careful. Goals were harder to find. Many matches were tense and close. It was not the most beautiful World Cup, but it had drama and emotion. Argentina reached the final again, with Maradona still leading the team. But this time, Argentina was not as strong as in 1986. West Germany also reached the final again. It was a rematch, Argentina against West Germany. In 1986, Argentina had won. In 1990, West Germany wanted revenge. The final was difficult. Argentina defended a lot. West Germany attacked more. Near the end of the game, West Germany received a penalty. Andreas Brehme scored. West Germany won 1-0. West Germany became world champion for the third time. For Maradona, it was a sad ending. He cried after the final. For Germany, it was a moment of victory and pride. Soon after, Germany would become one country again, after years of division between West Germany and East Germany. So the 1990 title also became part of a bigger national story. In 1994, the World Cup went to the United States. This was a very important moment for football. In the United States, football was not the #1 sport. Many people preferred American football, basketball, baseball, or hockey. But FIFA wanted to help football grow there. The 1994 World Cup had huge stadiums, big crowds, and strong global attention. Brazil arrived with a different kind of team. This Brazil was not remembered mainly for beauty. It was remembered for balance, strength, and focus. The team had great players like Romario, Bebeto, Dunga, Tafarel, and many others. Romario was the star. He was short, smart, and deadly inside the box. He did not need many chances. One small space was enough. One quick movement was enough. He knew where to be, and he knew how to score. Bebeto was his perfect partner. Together, Romario and Bebeto gave Brazil goals and confidence. Brazil reached the final against Italy. It was a classic match. Brazil against Italy, two football giants. But the final was very tense. After 90 minutes, no goals. After extra time, still no goals. For the first time in World Cup history, the final would be decided by penalties. This is one of the most stressful moments in football. A player walks alone. The ball is still. The goalkeeper is waiting. The world is watching. Brazil scored. Italy missed important penalties. Then Roberto Baggio, one of Italy's best players, had to score to keep Italy alive. He shot the ball over the goal. Brazil won. Brazil became world champion for the fourth time. The Brazilian players celebrated with emotion. After 24 years without a World Cup title, Brazil was back at the top. The image of Dunga lifting the trophy became historic. The 1994 World Cup also helped football grow in the United States. It showed that the sport could attract huge crowds and new fans in a different market. Now we arrive at 1998. The World Cup was held in France. This tournament marked a new stage in modern football. There were more teams, more media attention, more global stars, and more pressure than ever before. France had never won the World Cup. But in 1998, the French team was strong, united, and playing at home. The symbol of the team was Zinedine Zidane. Zidane was elegant. He played with calm. He controlled the ball with class. He did not look rushed. When he had the ball, the game seemed slower. France also had great players like Didier Deschamps, Lilian Thuram, Marcel Desailly, Laurent Blanc, and Thierry Henry. Brazil arrived as the defending champion. The Brazilian team had Ronaldo, one of the greatest young stars in the world. Ronaldo was fast, strong, and explosive. He could run past defenders with power and skill. Many people expected him to be the star of the final. Brazil reached the final. France reached the final. The match was played at the Stade de France, near Paris. Before the game, there was a lot of confusion about Ronaldo. Reports said he had a health problem before the final. He was first left out of the starting team, then returned to the lineup. Many fans were confused. Something felt strange. On the field, France was stronger. Zidane scored 2 goals with headers from corner kicks. Brazil could not react. France won 3-0. France became world champion for the first time. The country celebrated in the streets. The victory had a special meaning because the French team was diverse. The players came from different backgrounds and different family stories. Many people saw the team as a symbol of a modern France. For Brazil, the final was painful and mysterious. For France, it was a dream. If this story is helping you understand English in a simple and natural way, subscribe to the channel now and comment, "I am learning with stories." Also, do not forget the first pinned comment. The link there gives you an exclusive material to learn English 5 times faster. Just click and access it after the video. From 1974 to 1998, the World Cup showed many faces. The Netherlands showed beauty without a trophy. West Germany showed discipline and strength. Argentina showed passion, pressure, and Maradona's genius. Italy showed how to grow during a tournament. Brazil showed that a team can win with art and also with balance. France showed the power of playing at home with a united team. The World Cup was no longer just a football tournament. It was a global story told every 4 years. It had heroes. It had pain. It had mistakes. It had magic. It had countries searching for pride and players trying to become immortal. And as the world moved into the 21st century, the World Cup would become even bigger. New stars would rise. New countries would surprise the world. Brazil would create one more golden moment. Spain would change football with passing. Germany would build a machine. Argentina would wait many years for one last dream. And Lionel Messi would write the final chapter of a long, emotional journey. The history of the FIFA World Cup Part 4, the 21st century, began with a World Cup that felt new, different, and global in a special way. In 2002, the World Cup was held in South Korea and Japan. It was the first World Cup in Asia. It was also the first World Cup hosted by two countries. This showed how much the tournament had grown. The World Cup was no longer only a European or South American story. It was becoming a true world event, with fans, teams, and dreams from every part of the planet. The 2002 tournament had surprises. South Korea had an amazing run. Playing at home, they beat strong teams and reached the semi-final. The stadiums were full of red shirts, loud songs, and powerful energy. It was one of the biggest surprises in World Cup history. But the strongest story of 2002 was Brazil. Brazil had suffered in the 1998 final. Ronaldo had suffered too. 4 years later, he came back with a mission. Brazil had a fantastic attack with Ronaldo, Rivaldo, and Ronaldinho. Ronaldo was calm, focused, and ready. Rivaldo was elegant and intelligent. Ronaldinho was creative, joyful, and unpredictable. Brazil reached the final against Germany. Germany had a great goalkeeper, Oliver Kahn. He had been one of the best players of the tournament. But in the final, Ronaldo found his moment. He scored twice. Brazil won 2-0. Brazil became world champion for the 5th time. Ronaldo finished the tournament as the top scorer, and his story became one of recovery. He had injuries, he had pain, he had doubts, but he returned to the biggest stage and became a hero again. The 2002 World Cup showed that football can give second chances. In 2006, the World Cup went to Germany. This tournament was full of strong teams and great players. Brazil had stars, Argentina had talent, Germany had home support, and Italy had experience. Italy reached the final against France. This final became famous for two very different reasons. The first reason was football. Italy and France played a close match. Zidane scored a penalty. Italy tied the game with Marco Materazzi. The match went to extra time. The second reason was emotion. Near the end of extra time, Zidane hit Materazzi with his head and received a red card. It was a shocking moment. Zidane was one of the greatest players in the world, and this was the last match of his career. The final went to penalties. Italy won. Italy became world champion for the 4th time. For Italy, there was a moment of joy and pride. For France, it was heartbreak. For Zidane, it was a sad and unforgettable ending. This is one reason the World Cup is so powerful. One moment can change everything. A goal, a save, a mistake, or a decision can live forever. In 2010, the World Cup went to South Africa. This was another historic moment. It was the first World Cup in Africa. The tournament had a special sound, the vuvuzela. In every match, fans heard that loud, constant sound in the stadiums. It became part of the memory of 2010. South Africa gave the world color, music, joy, and a deep sense of celebration. On the field, Spain made history. Spain had a very special style. They loved possession. They passed the ball many times. They stayed calm. They controlled the rhythm of the game. This style was often called tiki-taka. Spain did not always score many goals, but they controlled matches with patience and intelligence. Their great players included Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, Villa, Casillas, Piel, and Ramos. Spain reached the final against the Netherlands. The Netherlands had lost finals before, in 1974 and 1978. Once again, they had a chance to win their first World Cup. The final was tense and physical. There were many fouls. Both teams fought hard. The match went to extra time. Then, near the end, Andres Iniesta scored. Spain won 1-0. Spain became world champion for the first time. Iniesta's goal became one of the greatest moments in Spanish sports history. For Spain, it was the top of a golden generation. They had won Euro 2008. then the World Cup in 2010, and later Euro 2012. For a few years, Spain controlled world football. In 2014, the World Cup returned to Brazil. Brazil was excited, but also under huge pressure. The country wanted to win at home and erase the pain of 1950. The tournament had great moments, beautiful goals, and passionate fans. But for Brazil, the story became painful again. Brazil reached the semi-final against Germany. Many people expected a difficult match, but nobody expected what happened. Germany scored again and again. Brazil lost 7-1. It was one of the most shocking results in World Cup history. The stadium was silent. Brazilian fans cried. Players looked lost. The dream ended in a way that no one could believe. Germany reached the final against Argentina. Argentina had Lionel Messi, one of the greatest players of all time. Messi had already won many titles with Barcelona, but the World Cup was still missing from his story. The final was close. Argentina had chances. Germany had chances. Then, in extra time, Mario Gigi scored for Germany. Germany won 1-0. Germany became world champion for the fourth time. The 2014 World Cup showed two sides of football. For Germany, it was organization, teamwork, and victory. For Argentina, it was sadness. For Brazil, it was trauma. But football always continues. That is one of the most important lessons of the World Cup. A country can lose, a player can cry, a team can fall, but the ball keeps moving. The next dream always begins. Before the final part of this story, take a simple step to keep learning English with us. Subscribe to Learn English Daily and comment below. The World Cup is a story of dreams. And remember, in the first pinned comment, there is an exclusive material to help you learn English 5 times faster. Just click the link and access it. It is made for people who want to learn English with clear stories, simple words, and real progress. In 2018, the World Cup happened in Russia. This tournament had many surprises. Germany, the defending champion, was eliminated in the group stage. That was a huge shock. Croatia had a beautiful journey. The team was led by Luka Modric, a brilliant midfielder. Croatia was a small country compared to many football giants, but the team played with heart, skill, and courage. Croatia reached the final for the first time. On the other side was France. France had a young, fast, and powerful team. Kylian Mbappé was one of the great stars. He was only 19 years old, but he played with speed and confidence. France also had Antoine Griezmann, Paul Pogba, N'Golo Kanté, Raphaël Varane, and Hugo Lloris. The final was France against Croatia. Croatia fought bravely, but France was stronger. France won 4-2. France became world champion for the second time. Mbappé scored in the final and became one of the youngest players ever to score in a World Cup final. France in 2018 showed a modern kind of football. Fast attacks, strong defense, young talent, and great physical power. Then came 2022. The World Cup was held in Qatar. It was the first World Cup in the Middle East. It was also different because it happened at the end of the year, not in the traditional middle of the year. This made the tournament feel unusual, but also very intense. The biggest story was Lionel Messi. Messi had already done almost everything in football. He had won league titles, Champions League titles, individual awards, and Copa America with Argentina. But the World Cup was still missing. For many years, people asked the same question: would Messi ever win the World Cup? Argentina started the 2022 tournament with a shock. They lost to Saudi Arabia in the first match. For a moment, the dream looked dangerous, but Argentina reacted. The team became stronger after the defeat. They played with more focus, more emotion, and more unity. Messi led the team. But he was not alone. Argentina had players like Angel Di Maria, Julian Alvarez, Rodrigo de Paul, Enzo Fernandez, Alexis Mac Allister, Nicolas Otamendi, and Emiliano Martinez. The team had talent, but also fight. Argentina reached the final against France. This final became one of the greatest matches in World Cup history. Argentina started very well. Messi scored a penalty. Di Maria scored after a beautiful team play. Argentina was winning 2-0. France looked almost finished. But then, Kylian Mbappé changed everything. He scored a penalty. Then, very quickly he scored again. The game was 2-2. In extra time, Messi scored again. Argentina was winning 3-2, but Mbappé scored another penalty. The game was 3-3. The final went to penalties. Emiliano Martinez made an important save. Argentina scored their penalties with confidence. Argentina won. Argentina became world champion for the third time. Messi finally lifted the World Cup. For Argentina, it was a moment of pure joy. For Messi, it was the final piece of his story. For football fans around the world, it was the end of a long journey. The boy from Rosario had become a world champion. From 1930 to 2022, the World Cup has given us so many stories. Uruguay showed the power of the first dream. Italy showed early dominance. Brazil showed beauty, pain, and greatness. Germany showed strength and organization. Argentina showed passion, drama, Maradona, and Messi. France showed diversity, talent, and modern football. Spain showed patience and control. Small countries showed courage. Great players became legends, and fans from every nation gave the tournament its soul. The World Cup is not only about who wins, it is about a child watching a match and dreaming for the first time. It is about families sitting together in front of the television. It is about friends shouting after a goal. It is about flags in the streets. It is about songs, tears, hope, and memory. Every 4 years, the world stops for football. People speak different languages, live in different countries, and have different cultures. But when the ball starts rolling, everyone understands the same emotion. A goal needs no translation. A save needs no translation. A dream needs no translation. That is why the World Cup is special. It reminds us that history is not only written in books. Sometimes history is written on grass with a ball, in front of millions of hearts. And for people learning English, stories like this are powerful. Because when we learn with stories, we do not only learn words, we learn feelings, we learn rhythm, we learn ideas. We remember more because the story stays with us. So keep learning, keep listening, keep reading, keep practicing. A new language is like football. You improve one pass at a time, one step at a time, one day at a time. You do not need to be perfect today. You only need to continue. And maybe, just like the great teams in World Cup history, your biggest victory will come after many small efforts, many mistakes, and one strong decision to never give up. This was the story of the FIFA World Cup, a story of nations, a story of legends, a story of dreams, and above all, a story that belongs to the whole world.